What's good, beautiful people? You guys are locked in on your dose of chalk it up sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I'm joined by a very, very special guest from the Joe DeCamara and John Ritchie show on 94 WIP, sports talk show host Joe DeCamara. How are you feeling today, sir?
Antonio, I'm good, man. It's good to see you. It was really fun seeing you last week at the Maxwell Awards. It was
Definitely.
awesome meeting you. Really terrific time, and I'm happy to be a part of your show, man. We got a lot in the Philadelphia sports scene to talk about.
Definitely, man, most definitely. And again, you did an amazing job at the Maxwell Awards. You shut the stage down. You, Devin Caney, Leslie Goodell. It was just ultimately an amazing experience,
Thank
and
you.
I'm really grateful to Joe Kraus and those guys for allowing me to be a part of that.
Well, thanks for all your help because you and others, man, we had a great staff and we had a good group, man, and it was fun, and we pulled it off somehow. And so, props to you and everybody, man.
Yeah, most definitely. I also got to give you credit for just noticing your attention to detail, leading up to the event, and just while watching you command the stage, it was truly something to be inspired by, and just slowly breaking into sports media myself. It was definitely one of those things that just motivates you and puts the battery in your back more and more. So I gotta give you your flowers while I can.
You're very kind. I appreciate it. And yeah, you saw me in one of my most intense settings, getting ready for it's much for me. It's much more intense before the event than during the event. Once the event comes, I mean, it's going to be whatever it's going to be. And generally, if I've prepared sufficiently, then it'll go good. Hopefully. But it's those preparation weeks and days and hours where it's like, wow, we gotta make sure we, what's the saying, dot every I and cross every T. And I think for the most part we did. So I felt really good about it.
Yeah, most
But
definitely. So.
thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Now, I know you're short on time, so let's hop right into it. So, there's so much going on in the Philadelphia sports market, with the Philadelphia 76ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and, the off season right now for the Eagles hasn't really been the most eventful. But, we've managed to bring in a guy like Hassan Reddick, former Temple standout, re-signed Kelsey and Fletcher Cox to 1 year deals, re-signed Boston Scott and Anthony Harris, those guys. Brought in a guy like Zach Pascal, brought back Derek Burnett. Not really sure why, but we did it. And I guess I just want to pick your brain as far as what are your thoughts on how the Philadelphia Eagles offseason has gone thus far?
Well, I think it's been underwhelming, clearly. I mean, that's the biggest word I would attach to it. Disappointing is definitely another word. But I go a little bit more with underwhelming than disappointed for this reason. I think this all season was always going to be about April and the draft, with the possible exception if they use those draft picks in April to make a trade in March for a quarterback, which obviously they did not do. I think they tried to do it, but they couldn't pull it off. So, Jalen Hurts, unless they make a pick in April for a quarterback, Jalen Hurts is the guy. And, we knew going in that they didn't have a ton of cap space. That's not good. That's Howie Roseman's fault. He clearly has mismanaged the cap a bit over the last couple of years, and they're feeling the effects of that. And that's really aggravating. But I temper my disappointment with the reality that this was always going to be about April. They have to draft well. They have a lot of options. They have a very prime spot there in the first round 3 different times. And I think the way people feel today, Antonio, will be different on May 1st. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. They could pick guys that the town's up in arms about, and that'll be a whole nother wave of frustration for millions of people. And that's distinctly possible. I mean, we know those years happen. But I just tend to think that they're going to add some playmaking players on defense and possibly one wide receiver. And I do think on May 1st, when that whole draft is done, I think people will feel a little bit or a lot better about the offseason.
Right. I could definitely see what you mean as far as, it being underwhelming, and
Yeah.
everything is leading up to April, right? With 3 first round picks, we all thought they were going to make a move for a guy like Deshaun Watson, or
Yep.
just possibly just make a move for maybe another guy at the skill position, maybe DK Metcalf or Devontae Adams, these big name guys, right? But clearly, based off the moves we've made, He clearly has a clearly different vision, right? So you mentioned the first round draft picks in his upcoming draft in April. Three of the picks are in the top 20. Um, we're putting a lot of trust in Howie Roseman. How much trust do you have in Howie Roseman making the right calls on draft day or draft night, rather?
I would say I have more trust than other people, but I would only refer to it as average trust, if there is such a thing. I don't know if there's such a thing as average trust. I mean, I'm certainly not gung ho that he's infallible and will definitely get it right, but I'm also not on the other extreme where there's people out there that think Howie can do no right and, has no shot to get it right. I don't think either extreme is the case. I think he had a good draft last year, and I think people should feel good about that. I think when you look back at the 2018 draft looks really good.
Right.
Even if Miles Sanders isn't a star, and he certainly isn't, between Sanders and Goddard and Jordan Mailata and Avonte Maddox and Josh Sweat,
Sweat.
yeah,
Yep.
that's pretty strong. Um, so I look now. We know 2019 and 2020 weren't good. Everybody knows that. So that's just to say that he needs to do better. He can do better. And if he doesn't, then he should be fired in the next year or two. I know there's a lot of people that think he already should have been fired. I mean, if I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I would be still holding Howie's feet to the fire the same way the Phillies should hold Joe Girardi's feet to the fire. Honestly, the same way the Sixers should hold Doc Rivers' feet to the fire. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's a sense of expectation, certainly for the Phillies and the Sixers, that they can achieve something based on the talent that's there. But it's the coach's responsibility to put it all together. And, you don't have to win a title, but at the very least, put a darn big charge in it to get close. So, that's how I look at the Howie thing. Now that we know this upcoming season is obviously his season to be had, let's see how he drafts and evaluate, next January and February whether he should stay or not.
Right. And it's funny because you can make an argument that this team overachieved in 2021 in terms of making the playoffs and actually getting some pretty fair coaching from Nick Sirianni. But when it comes to the quarterback position, most specifically Jalen Hurts, he led the team to the playoffs last season. Granted, the NFL did add the additional team into the playoffs, so it kind of was a by default, right? But in your eyes, what does Jalen Hurts have to do to prove that he is a franchise quarterback? Because for me, it's as simple as I need 4,000 passing yards and 30 plus passing touchdowns. That I know it's a big jump, but I believe if he wants to be taken serious at that position, he has to be able to put himself in top 10 quarterback status.
Look, I don't put as much into the stats just because he's going to always have a lot of running touchdowns, and that's going to limit the passing touchdowns to an extent. And that's fine. That's nothing wrong with that. 4,000 passing yards is attainable. It's achievable. I look at it a little bit differently. I look at it like the main thing he has to do is be better in the passing game with, I'll just say, all aspects of passing the football. What do I mean by that? I mean accuracy, touch, and timing. But what I really mean most of all is a sense of anticipation. The timing thing to me is the biggest one. He just, to me, he looked last year like, I don't want to say college quarterback. It's a little harsh because, he did some nice things and he did help them get to the playoffs. But let's be real. They primarily got to the playoffs because they had a great offensive line, by the way, against an easy schedule. And they effectively ran the ball. And he was part of running the ball. I mean, it's not to take it away. And his threat of running was part of what helped the running backs effectively run because, the threat of him running is what keeps that defensive end or outside linebacker from crashing down and tackling Miles Sanders or Boston Scott at the 3-yard mark instead of the 6-yard mark. So there's a lot to it, but I just think he needs to get better at running a pro style offense, full field reads, a sense of timing, and delivering the ball accurately. And I view that as a lot more important than the arm strength not being top flight. It's not top flight. His arm will never be top flight as far as powerful arm goes. But it's also not weak. He doesn't have a weak arm. He's
Yeah.
got an okay arm. He's just got to get better with a sense of timing. And what also goes with that is pocket presence. He's got an amazing ability to escape the pocket. Clearly, really good, really good. But you don't want to leave plays on the field where what turned into a 6-yard run could have been a 35-yard pass if he had just stayed in the pocket longer. So everything to do with the passing game is what he needs to work on.
Understood. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. Anticipation, timing, touch, placement.
Yeah.
And
Because by the way, Antonio, he's got everything else. I mean,
right.
He's got the physical athleticism.
The leadership.
He's got the physical strength. I mean, he's a bulky dude in a way that he doesn't have great height, but that's okay. You can deal with that. He's physically strong. He's clearly a willing to put his body on the line. He's not afraid out there, for lack of a better way to put it. And he obviously has all the intangibles with regard to relationships with teammates, and someone that I think the organization and the town can feel proud is the starting quarterback of the team. I don't want to say franchise quarterback, but the starting quarterback of the team. I mean, he's an incredibly commendable guy. You look at his story from Alabama to Oklahoma to backing up Carson to becoming the Eagles starter. It's an amazing journey. You just want to see him be better in the passing game.
Definitely. I agree with you. Now, shifting gears, you mentioned the Sixers earlier with Doc Rivers. The Sixers team, there's a lot of pressure on them after that James Harden move. And, we're not going to stick too much on the Sixers because I know you definitely I don't want to take too much of your time. But
I got a little bit of time. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start here. How much confidence do you have in the Sixers to make major noise in the playoffs, especially as they're presently constructed this season?
I'm going to call it some confidence, but not major confidence. I just feel like the last 2 to 3 weeks have been really concerning. I mean, Harden doesn't look right. And even when Harden's right, I mean, they basically have 4, 5, or 6 players, depending on what you term a player. I guess it's technically 6 because, I think Thibault, he counts as a player, as your 5th guy. And I guess Niang counts as a player as your 6th guy. After that, there's nobody that I say it again.
It's highly questionable.
It's highly questionable. I mean, I think Niang's good enough to say he belongs in an NBA rotation on a good team. Like, you can play George Niang for 20 minutes. After that, honest to God, there's no one else I want to see in the game. And I mean that as no disrespect to Shake or Korkmaz or Jordan or whoever the heck else I'm not thinking of, Isaiah Joe and all those guys. They're just not that good. And the problem is they're about to face only good teams. I mean, when the Sixers get to the playoffs, all 3 rounds in the Eastern Conference before they even get to a finals, if they get there, all 3 rounds are going to be good. The Bulls are good. The Cavs are good. The Nets are potentially great. Like the Bucks, like we all know the deal. The Celtics are very solid. I mean, there's really good teams. So, this is not going to be easy at any stage. And I just feel like they're going to ask Embiid and Harden to do a ton. And Embiid will be capable of doing a lot. But we don't know that his body will be able to hold up for 2 months, having to play 35 minutes a game because he's never done it before. And we really don't know that James Harden can answer the bell at this stage for 2 straight months with his hamstring. And even if he can physically play, is he like he used to be a top 5 player in the NBA? Is he a top 10 player? Or is he a top 15 player? Because there's a big difference between the 4th best player in the world and the 14th best player in the world. A huge difference. Huge. So I have a lot of concerns. I'm not saying they can't do it. I think the NBA is pretty wide open this year. But it's been a bad last 2 or 3 weeks for the Sixers.
Yeah, completely understand. And there's definitely, like you said, there's many weak links on that team, and they have They have a long road ahead of them. But
And listen, Antonio, I didn't even get to Tobias, who, I mean, seems like a great guy and all, but he just doesn't give them enough. He just doesn't give them enough.
absolutely,
Obviously, we're all super psyched about Maxey, and we should be. I mean, we shouldn't pencil Maxey in as going to play like a star every night, because he's probably not going to play like a star every night. He's going to play like a star some nights, maybe half the nights.
right.
But man, Tobias has been really a tremendous disappointment. I mean, especially to me, considering how last year it looked like, and I think last year might have been his 7th or 8th or 9th year in the league. He looked like last year he had taken a jump. You know, if you remember, he was basically the next guy. He would have been the next guy in the All-Star game. He lost that All-Star spot to Julius Randle. I thought the fact that Tobias was knocking on the door at the All-Star game was legit. I didn't think it was fake. I thought it was deserved and earned. I mean, he had elevated. He did something a lot of people don't do, which is really elevate their NBA game in their late 20s. That's kind of rare, and
Very
he
true.
did it. And then for some reason this year, it's like he's reverted back. And by the way, he's probably playing worse this year than he's played in all 4 years that he's been here. And Joel Embiid and James Harden are going to need more help. And if Tobias Harris can't be better than he's been, then there's no way they can win it. There's no way they can win a championship with Tobias playing the way he's played for most of this season. He's got to be not only better, he's got to be a lot better.
Mm. And on that note, Mr. DeCamara, man, great conversation, man, great insight, and super grateful to you for gracing my platform, gracing Chalk It Up Sports with your presence, man. And we definitely have to do this again.
Yeah.
I'm super appreciative to be able to have made your acquaintance, and more collaborations is definitely to come. Again, super grateful to you. And for you guys that aren't aware, you can catch Mr. Joe DeCamara on Joe DeCamara and the Joe DeCamara and John Ritchie show Monday through Friday, midday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time on 94 WIP. And if you missed the show, you can double back and watch it and listen on Odyssey.com and the Odyssey app. Mr. DeCamara, any final words before you get out of here, my man?
Yeah, my final words are, Antonio, I'm a big fan of you on both a personal and a professional level. I think you're a great guy.
Thank you.
You already have great things established, and I think even better days lie ahead for you professionally. And I'm super psyched to see that turn into a reality for you. So thanks for having me on the show, and we'll definitely do this again, man. Stay in touch, and we're in a fun time in Philly sports right now because there's a lot happening. I mean, the draft is soon, NBA playoffs are soon, Villanova's still in it, and the Phillies are about to crank it up. So let's see what happens.
Yes, sir. And on that note, you guys, I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. I was joined by the great Joe DeCamara. You guys were locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.